Hello, my name is Ifat Yaakobi, and I'm a UX architect and a product manager. And I'm going to talk to you today about human system integration with IoT based applications, or how to make it more user friendly for the users. I think that one of the biggest challenges with IoT applications today, UX wise, is to make all this data that we're creating insights for the users. And this is the focus of this talk today. So we said that we're going to talk about the context of IoT applications. I think that we first need to define what is IoT. So IoT is the Internet of Things. It's a shortcut for the Internet of Things. And this is a trend that is going on in the world today, where many things are now connected to the internet, sending data, and can be controlled remotely. Examples of this can be houses that are connected to the internet, sending data about temperature, humidity, the state of the door, camera information, video camera information. We see also industrial plants that are connected to the internet, where machines are actually sending information about the manufacturing process, problems, intake of materials that need to be counted on. We see different logistics tools like ships and airplanes and trucks that are sending information about their location. Sometimes they're also sending information about the state of the cargo, the type of the cargo that is in this device, whether it's the ship or the airplane or the truck. And we also see situations where public transportation is now connected to the internet, sending information about where is the train, is it going to be late, where is the bus, is it going to arrive on time, and allowing people to be able to predict which type of public transportation should they rely on. Should they take a train or a bus? Should they take a taxi or wait for the bus? All of this decision making is possible because they have the information coming from those devices. And I think the problem is that we are now bombarded with so much data that can help us take decisions, but often we are so bombarded by this information that we actually are not able to deal with this information and take smart decisions. Let's see some applications of IoT. The field of IoT is exploding in agriculture. You can see that this is an example of a farm, of a future farm. Not all of this is happening in all farms in the world today, but it's definitely a trend where you see smart tractors and agro robots that are actually doing the work in the field instead of the farmer doing this work. You can see cows and pigs that are connected to IoT devices, describing where they are, sending data about their level of activity and their health. There are robots that are actually milking cows, and they use sensors to identify if what is the intake of milk that they got from the cow, how healthy is the cow right now. There are drones being used to fly to faraway fields and make sure that the oranges or apples or whatever is growing in this field is ready to be picked. Instead of the farmer driving to this field that might be 4 or 5 hours away from his home, he can actually fly the drone to that location and look at what's going on. So it's not perfect, but it's definitely saving a lot of time to the farmer. And for the farmer, that was once a job where you go to the field and you do some work, and then you go to the cows and you milk the cows, and then you drive to the other fields and you see what's the situation. Now the farmer is becoming someone that is monitoring data. He has a lot of data coming from all those devices in the farm, and he needs to manage by exceptions. So if a cow is sick, he's now dealing with that. He doesn't have to go and milk all the cows. If there is a robot that is not functioning or there's a problem, he needs to deal with that. But other than that, the robots are doing their job based on a plan that was created for his farm. All of this is to say that the way that users are now using. Another field that is exploding with IoT applications is the logistic and transportation industry. What we see here is both in the world of smart warehouses and in the world of transportation of goods, cargo. There are many, many applications that are being used today or are going into the market. So in the warehouse, people have a higher level of controls where they can control the temperature and the humidity of the warehouse itself. Inventory is actually reporting itself to say, I'm here. I am part of the inventory that you have without people actually counting it. Smart lifts can weigh stuff and say, okay, I have this amount of material, for example, that I'm picking up, find a weight for every inventory item. We have autonomous vehicles that are collecting stuff from the warehouse and delivering it to boxes. We've seen these in warehouses managed by Amazon. They're huge and a lot of things. Robots are actually going and collecting the things that need to be sent to customers. They collect it and bring it to one point. People package it, or sometimes robots actually package it, and it goes to the customers. All of this is done more and more without people being involved. People are actually involved again in the level of exceptions. They want to find exceptions and deal with them. Once the cargo actually leaves the warehouse, we had much less control in the past, but now we can actually monitor what's going on in the trucks that are delivering our cargo, in the ships that are taking our cargo from one port to another port in international routes. We can track a specific container. We can even track a specific box to say where exactly is it. And this information is really, really helpful because until now, people would do this manually. They would call a truck driver and ask where it is. They would go to the website of the ships and see where things are. But it doesn't really, when they do it manually, it doesn't really report in real time where things are and are they going to be late. And so there were a lot of problems related to this field of monitoring cargo in shipping. I'm going to talk about the company that I work for that dealt with this problem. But first, before we do that, let's play a game. This is Waldo, and I'm going to show you a picture, and you need to find Waldo in this picture as fast as you can. So, did you find Waldo? I'm guessing that some of you did, and some of you didn't. And I am also guessing that I'm not guessing, actually, I know that the reason that some of you did not find Waldo is because what we see in the picture is a little bit overwhelming. There is a lot of different people here. There is a lot of information presented to us in in this picture. And so it's really, really hard for us to focus on the most important thing, which is finding Waldo, which is here. And basically not focus on the rest of the information that we have, on the rest of the people that we have. And this is a common problem that I see in IoT application and in data application altogether. We throw information on the user, we throw the data on the user, and we expect them to find the insight. And that's a problem. Examples. This is a website called FlightAware that reports on every airplane in the air. Because a lot of IoT devices have geographical data, a lot of times what you see is people placing this geographical data on the map and showing it to the user. And as you can see, it's really, really overloading. It's not really helpful to see all the airplanes in the air. I cannot deduce anything smart from this, apart from the fact that I have a lot of airplanes in the air. And so this is not a trend that is very helpful for the user, but it's very common. This is another website that actually monitors all the ships and marine devices that are at sea. You can see that there are a lot of ships at sea right now. It's ships and all kind of boats, but you can see that it's a little bit overwhelming and again, not very helpful. I can't even see what's going on here. There's a lot of things going on here. I don't know if you noticed, but the dots are actually ships that stopped, and the arrows are ships that are going and they're showing their directions. This is again overloading for the user, and this is not helpful. So the problem, as I said, is that we often bombard the users with data and expect them to go and find the insight, to go and find Waldo. But that's not the way that it should be. We should help them find what they're looking for, and we should do it by doing user research. User research can help us find the answers the users want to find with the data. And if we talk to them and we understand how they think, it will help us bring the best data and bubble it up for the user to get the most important data that he cares about. So now that you understand a little bit how I think, I wanted to present myself. My name is Ifat Yaakobi. I have about 16 years of experience in UX and in user research for complex systems. I've worked on computer-aided manufacturing applications, ERP applications, security applications, which has a lot of IoT devices as well, IoT devices for in the context of cybersecurity, IoT devices in the context of the logistics industry, and we'll go into a little bit of details from about this job. I've worked in banking and insurance, so I've done a lot of complex systems. I have an MA in cognitive psychology, which allows me to understand the way that people are actually trying to work with the data and how we are bombarding them with too much information. And in the last 6 years, I actually combined product management, UX, and research work because I believe that's the best way to create a product that works for the users and that gives value and then sells better. So this is a movie from the website of ContGuard, which is a startup that I worked for, that explains exactly what ContGuard does. So as I said, I worked in an IoT company that created IoT applications for the logistics industry. And this explains a little bit of what we did in this startup. So as I said, I worked for a startup that used IoT devices to help logistics managers to monitor their cargo in transit. And this is a little bit of a summary of what we did.
In transit, your goods are vulnerable. From your warehouse to their destination, they pass through approximately 10 handoffs. That's more than 10 opportunities for risks, such as temperature fluctuations, delays, impact damages, and security breaches. But what if there was a way for you to know? What if there was a system that provided you with every possible bit of information regarding your shipment and suggested insights that would help you take your supply chain to the next level? Introducing ContGuard. ContGuard is the most advanced solution for monitoring location, quality, and security, and predicting supply chain events while your goods are in transit. Let's face it, when shipping goods from A to B, things don't...
Okay, so what we did in ContGuard is that we had an IoT device that we could attach to containers or to place in a box that is going on a truck or to place in a box that is going on a plane and basically track where those things are. We would be able to track temperature and humidity of the cargo inside those boxes or containers. Of course, the location. We would know if someone had given the cargo an impact, and so things might be broken inside. And we reported this back to the users. So let's talk about two examples from experience about real-time IoT data. So as part of being a UX lead and a product manager in ContGuard, I actually interviewed some users. This is Michael Costa, which is the supply chain manager for luxurious cars spare parts in the US and in Canada market. And he's responsible to make sure that all the cars that are available would have the spare parts as they need. About 10% of his cargo was imported from Sweden, and he had real problems with the cargo that is coming from Sweden because he didn't feel that he's in control when it was on a ship at sea. When I asked him what is he measured on, what are his key performance indicator, he said that his and his team's goal are our goal is trying to actively manage inventory to make sure we never run out and we save money. Okay, so basically what he's trying to do is make sure that he never has a situation where a customer is asking for a spare part, but he cannot deliver it to him because he doesn't have it. On the other hand, he doesn't want to overstock his warehouse with spare parts that are not going to be used because that costs money as well. And we're losing money when we're saving things in the warehouse and it's not being sold. So this is the game that they're playing as a group in order to make. When we asked Michael about understanding where his cargo is in international shipping, he told us this phrase that what we found very, very interesting. You know what when the freight leaves Sweden, and then we sort of have the time where you know that the spaceship goes around the other side of the moon and you don't know exactly what's happening. So, from his point of view, something being at sea is as remote and unclear as something that is on the other side of the moon. He doesn't really know where it is. It's an enigma for him. And this is one of the problems that my startup was trying to solve. And so we told him, but we have a device that can help you see where your things are, even when they're at sea. And so we asked, okay, so can I see where is my cargo? And we said, of course, you'll just put an IoT device and we will display where every one of the pieces of cargo is. Now that is a little bit overwhelming because here we have 82 cargo units in transit. Some of them are grouped together. All of them are grouped together. This is a very common phenomenon when you look at maps. There's a lot of things at the port. There's a lot of things on a specific ship. They don't necessarily spread all over. And even if they did, it wouldn't be helpful for the user, as we saw with the ships and the airplanes. And so what we did is we aggregated geographical data for the users. And so instead of displaying every item as a box, we aggregated things that were close together and we showed the number of the cargo units at every location. Other than aggregating this data, you want to be able to use the data that you have, historical data and the new data, to predict and alert for business events. One of the most important business events in the logistics industry is the cargo going to be late? Because if it's late, I need to start handling it right now because I'm going to run out maybe in a few days and I need to start making sure that I have products that can replace the things that I'm running out of. And so we actually identified and predicted what things are going to be late and highlight those. Now, the fact that we highlight this in the system is very nice, but the people are not in the system all day long. They actually go to other places. It's very nice. We're not Facebook. We don't have an intention of bringing the users all the time to us. We want them to know that there is a problem immediately when we identify that there is a problem, but to know it even if they're not in the system. And so we basically enabled for alerts to come, and we send alerts in the email and in SMSs to those users so they would know that things are going to come late. They would know that the temperature fluctuation just happened and they might want to handle this. They would know what's going on. They would be able to track events as they are happening. And after we have predicted those business events, we actually wanted to combine business information with the IoT data to give the user a much more full understanding of the situation. And so, for example, if the user can click on the late area, he would zoom in and see the number of cargo units that is late. He would see that he's basically 3 days late, and they're going to, according to what we think, he's going to get to the port on the 22nd of March, which means that he can now start preparing to pick up this cargo from the port. And all of this cargo items, all of those things that are in the cargo are going to be late. And so brake pads, I'm fine, I have enough, and lighting, I'm fine, but oh my God, suspensions, I really need those. I don't have enough. And so I better start handling the suspensions and trying to figure out where can I get them from other sources for the few days that it's going to be late to get to my warehouse. And so they can handle the problems as they go. So if we summarize this, when we look at real-time data, we want to aggregate geographical data into chunks that people can actually consume. You want to be able to use the data that you have to predict and alert business events to the users. And you want to alert the users not only in your application, but also externally, so they would know to come in when things are going problematically. And you want to combine business and IoT data in order to close the loop for the user. If something is late, the information of what exactly is late in terms of product, in this case, is really going to be helpful. It's not enough to know that something is late. It's much, much better to know what exactly are the implications of this event. Second example. When we track all this information, when we collect all this information, we now have a lot of historical data that is being collected, and we can analyze this and help the users make better business decisions using historical information. So this is Karen, and she is responsible for importing medications from Florida to Israel. And when we talked to her about how does she make decisions about what shipping company should she select, she told us that it's important for her that it's going to be as short as possible. That makes sense. I want it as soon as possible. It's important for her that the company would not be late. As I said, late is a really, really important problem for the logistics industry, and they want companies that are on time, even if they're a little bit longer, but on time it's better. And for medications, she really, really cares about abnormal events. Specifically, she wants to know that the medications were kept in a temperature that is good for them and that there wasn't too much humidity that can ruin those medications. She selects a shipping company that has a lot of abnormal events, and the medication will get to very high temperature. She will not be able to sell this product. She will have to throw it away because it will get ruined. And so she wants to optimize for all of those three things. And we said, okay, so let's give her the ability to select a location where she wants to start and end, and then we'll give her the ability to basically see all this data. And so we gave her a table with the ability to see all this data. But as we talked to the user, we learned several things. The first thing that we learned is that we're not really using terminology that is clear for the user. So for example, we use the term lead time, which is a very common term in the logistics industry. However, different people, different roles in the logistics industry consider lead time differently. Some people think about it from port to port. Other people think about it from the moment that I actually put the order in the system and until it's actually delivered to the end customer. And other people think about it from the moment that the cargo actually left the warehouse and to the point where the cargo is arriving to a new warehouse. And because different people understood this differently, we wanted to make it more accurate, and we changed it to be port to port. Another thing that we did is we wanted to make sure that the terminology and the information that we're presenting is similar to the mental model, the way that people are actually thinking about those problems. For example, our estimation was that we need to describe the count of events, right? We said there for every shipping company, shipping stuff from Florida to Israel, we saw for every trip 6 events for temperature and 4 events for humidity. And this has 25 events, and this has 35 events. But as we talked to the users, we understood that this is actually not very helpful, because event can be very, very long or very, very short. And what they care about is the total duration that their cargo was inside the bounds of the event. And so we calculated this for the users and identified the average duration for temperature events and for humidity events in total for the entire shipment over 7 days. And now they know that this company's average of temperature is actually 10 hours, and for this company it's 36 hours. So if I need to deliver a medication from Florida to Israel, I'll probably not use the company that has a lot of temperature issues and humidity issues. However, as we saw, there's still a lot of information, even if it's presented in the way that is helpful for the user. There's a lot of information, and we want to highlight the most important stuff. So one of the things that we did is we organized the information from the length of the trip to be the shortest at the top and the longest at the bottom. And we provided some kind of visual indications for this. And we also started to highlight the best and the worst companies on different measures. And so on time, we highlighted that those 2 companies have a very, very high rate of arriving on time. And these 2 companies are 50% of the time late. And so maybe you don't want to take this if it's really, really important for you that it will arrive on time. We also highlighted extreme cases for temperature events and humidity events to help the user identify which companies have a problem with this. And we also highlighted security events per trip, the companies that have more events than normal. And still, when you look at this, this looks like a lot of information. We have a little bit more understanding of what is bad and what is good, but still it looks like a lot of information. What we also wanted to provide for the user is some kind of a summary of the data that helps them understand very quickly what they're getting. And so we've added those tags here below each company to say what is the fastest one, what is the best high quality, and what are the risks that are relevant to each one of those companies. And so as I look at the company, I can go here and say, okay, this is often late and it has a quality risk. If I'm interested, I can actually see what's going on. And this information can be taken and placed in their system where they take decisions about which company to book in order to help them make the best decisions using those short summaries of information. So we talked about a lot of things. I want to summarize all the things that we talked about. We talked about making sure that the information is presented with the terminology that is correct for the users, that is clear for the users, and using the understanding and the mental model that the users actually think about this problem. We also talked about highlighting important information so people doesn't have to go and fish it out of this very, very long table. We talked about the fact that we want to summarize the data for the user and give them some kind of a highlight. We want to aggregate geographical data to help the users not be bombarded with all the information that we have. We want, and this is very important, to predict and alert for business events, and not necessarily all events that we can predict and alert. We are able to predict and alert much more than the users actually need. And we need to make sure that we predict and alert the right events and not the ones that are easier for us. And we also want to make sure that once we have those events and we predict and alert on those, we combine business information so that decision-making process, and the actionable insight is going to be delivered by understanding the full scope of what's going on. If we integrate business information, it can help the users take decisions much faster and in a better way. So if you talk to your users and follow some of those guidelines that I talked to, I think you'll have better IoT applications. Thank you very much.